Hi, Joe. It's Mike Sarno, trying to respond to your most recent video where you asked me a few questions and asked for some clarification. Okay, you wanted to know what I meant when I said the false dichotomy between whatever religion that person might have and atheism. Basically, I'm not saying you're doing this. I'm saying that I've seen atheists make this argument, and I was just adding to the conversation that this is one of the potential pitfalls in the deconversion process. It's a false choice between whatever, say, being a Baptist and being an atheist. It's not an either or. There are a number of other choices. It's not as if you have to, if you can prove, the Baptist tenets wrong, then atheism is the null hypothesis that you must accept. There are a lot of different viewpoints out there, a lot of different schools of thought, and I'm basically just saying that I see a lot of atheists ignoring that. There's a lot of Greek thought on this, the ancient Greeks. So you could go ahead and abandon Catholicism and still go ahead with some Greek philosophy that involves a god of some type. Obviously there's all the different monotheistic religions out there, and then there's the non-theistic religions, even like pantheism or deism, or if you want to go with something Eastern, or Unitarian Universalism. There's a whole bunch of different choices, and that's basically what I mean. That it's a false choice to say, well, if you're not going to be a Catholic, then you may as well be an atheist. And I do see that argument being made, and I understand that maybe it's a generalization. Maybe it doesn't occur as often as I feel that it does. I didn't do a statistical study, so who knows? Maybe I'm just full of it on that, and I'm willing to accept it. I was just adding that into the conversation as a point of interest, because I've seen it happen. I've seen people present it to me as well. In the past and even today. I think, I don't know, I think you're exaggerating the whole creationism aspect. Moving on, that wasn't a really good segue. I would make a good on-air personality. But whatever. The false dichotomy thing, put that aside. The whole creationism rant that you get on, I just don't see it as I don't see it as a problem. To be perfectly honest with you, I made another video earlier today where I had mentioned this, but the whole creationism, evolution, quote unquote debate, that's settled. That's settled science. That was settled science a while ago. The Catholic Church has come out and said evolution is fine. There's no theological problem with it. And, the Catholic Church back in, it was like the 1950s when that first encyclical came out that said, hey, there's no problem pursuing this as long as it doesn't encroach into the areas of the divine. If you're going to say that evolution disproves God, then all right, we're not on board with that. But, what else would you expect the Catholic Church to say regarding theological matters? But, that's settled science, and that's even settled theology. And like I stated, there was that last great push for creationism, which with this intelligent design crap, in Dover, Pennsylvania. Now I wasn't involved in the trial, but when it was coming up, I was on another list, an email discussion group, and we discussed that thoroughly. And that's old hat for me, and that's just done. The judge completely stated in no uncertain terms, intelligent design is creationism, creationism is religion. They're all just another name for something else, and we will not teach religion as science. So, at least here in the United States, that's basically settled law. That's just not going to rear its ugly head. You may have some jackass out there who tries to tell you that creationism is science and tries to debunk evolution, but they're jackasses. If we're gonna worry about every crazy guy, who's walking down the street with a sandwich board saying, beware the end of the world, we're never gonna get any sleep. So, I think you're overreacting with that, but hey, it's your time. Go after the creationist nuts. I think it's great fun watching the creationist videos and watching the people debunking creationism. Those videos are a lot of fun, but I think that's just really high, degree of just, I don't know, just nothing. It's entertainment, I guess. There's just really nothing there. So, I don't get that there. The whole Big Bang Theory, that's almost settled science. We're not we're not really sure as what happened right at the very beginning. We can project back with our physics all the way back to 10 to the negative 16th seconds after the Big Bang, but we don't know that little fraction of a second, the smallest fraction of a second, up to that point. We can't figure out what went on before that. And then, of course, before the Big Bang, well, that question doesn't really mean anything because the Big Bang is when time was created, so you don't have a before. But then you get into all these interesting questions about causality. But that's not science. That's philosophy. But the science is pretty well settled there. It's probably about as settled as we can get until we discover another form of physics that can get us that extra little bit of the way. But that's not really religion. I understand what you're saying. That's a really good answer for, how the universe got here. And, well, yeah, sure. That's, yeah, how can you disagree with that, really? Abiogenesis, that's really interesting. I think that